Welcome everyone to the Miss Art World podcast. I'm Catherine. I'm joined with Samuel Cooksey with Samuel Cooksey Project. Hi, Samuel.
Howdy, everybody.
And we have a special guest today. We have Chuck Hohng. How are you?
Alive and well.
Good. So I see that you're, this is a podcast, but you're wearing one of your Hanboks, right?
Yes. And
Okay.
this is what connected you and me in the first place anyways.
So. That's how we got connected. So you walked in the LA Art Show performance that we had and you talked about your Hanboks. Can you, it's one thing I want to talk about. I also want to talk about your conceptual artwork, but can you talk a little bit about your Hanbok?
Yeah, funny story. I was just making teddy bears, and then one of my friends who's a fashion designer had the opportunity to be in a fashion show as a designer. And she told me, hey, I'm inspired by your teddy bears, but I'm going to make Hanbok. Would you be down to let me borrow some of your bears so I can like start making collection out of it? So I'm like, okay, sounds perfect. Like I liked her as a human being, so why not? And 2 weeks before the show, she kind of casually connected with me saying like, hey, by the way, what are you gonna wear? I'm like, what am I gonna wear what? And she said, well, you're walking down in the catwalk with me as a co-designer and collaborator. I'm like, well, this is very new. You never told me. And she's like, haha, so what are you gonna wear? That was a point I decided, like, you know what? At the moment, I made Hanbok for the kids, like for my, again, godchildren who are twins. So I thought, you know what? I can just blow up, like the pattern to fit adult size. Let me go ahead and fix it and make it for myself. So that was the first time I made Hanbok for myself. And then while I was at the, local fabric store, someone asked me, oh, so what's your project? And Dean was his name. And he asked me like, oh, what are you making? I told him, well, I'm making Hanbok. And he was super excited. Oh, I know what it is. And I'm like, wait, you're not Korean. How do you know that? And he told me he's following someone on Twitter named Jenny. She's an illustrator, and like she always like wears Hanbok, like cutesy little Hanboks, and show it around. So I connected with her through Twitter saying, hey, you and I will be in the same convention center. You want to meet up? So when I showed up, she said, oh my God, it's really good quality that you made. I would like to buy one from you. So, then my brain started going and saying, you know what? I can actually start making this for other people too and get paid for it as well. So, hey, that's the whole saga of, I guess, making Hanbok. Yeah, as a part
What's your favorite design? Because you have on your website, you have a bunch of different types that people can buy. So on your website, which ones would you consider your favorite design so far?
Baseball.
Okay, the baseball one.
Yeah, because no one done it before. Like I've seen some plaid ones before, and it's kind of like easy to just swap the fabric and color day and call it modern. But for me to actually come up with something that's very like Americana, but at the same time traditional Korean. So the beautiful merge of those two, to me, felt exactly like how second generations or even third generation or mixed race of Korean people would feel in this country. Like you cannot hide the visage, but at the same time, like you still feel closer to your root. And a lot of people in their now millennials, like in their 20s and 30s who start making money for themselves, would like to go back to their roots and see how it feels on their skin. So it's about like owning your both heritage and at the same time wearing it as a fashion statement as well. So I don't know, I still feel very kin to that particular design. And I don't know, it's just, like it's still different designs coming out of my head. I recently made one for the kids with the hoodie with like bear ears and the like, what's that, the cape one with the bunny ears for the twins. I'm like, well, you know what? The bare one I really like, so I'm gonna make it for myself. Like, I'm gonna make like 5 of them. So every day I will wear certain colors for my gallery job. So there you go. That's my future plan. But shh, don't tell people yet.
That's amazing. How is your gallery job? So, Sam, I don't know if you know this, but Chuck just got hired as what's your title?
Gallery specialist.
Gallery specialist for Tag Gallery, which is a co-op of artists. And correct me, Chuck, if I'm not explaining this right, but it's you have to be approved as an artist member, and then the artists run the gallery space. So like they're the art board. And it gives artists an opportunity to kind of control how a gallery is run. So each artist gets their own exhibit every year, and they're, instead of having to talk to a gallery manager or director and try and apply for space, they're running it, so they can really make their own decisions, which I think is nice for an artist.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in a gallery as a curator before and worked with the gallery as an artist before. And it's really like curator tends to have voices of certain things. Like as an artist running the gallery, I was trying to be like open about different decisions, but other galleries that I worked with, they had strong opinion of what will sell. So they would suggest me like, hey, how about starting this series? Like, I saw your sketch. This is really cool. You should build upon it. But at the same time, I was like, well, I was already doing this series. Like, how do you think about this? So it was constant negotiations of what will sell, because they have to make money too. I understand. But as an artist, it's also a moment that you realize like, well, my end goal was be represented by a gallery, but this was probably like not the most like optimal of like representing my art as an artist. So some galleries are pretty open, but Tag Gallery in like very specifically are giving 100% freedom to artists, which is quite rare, and they are the one who actually has stake on it. So it's beautiful, like beautifully cooperative, and I'm really loving it. Yeah.
Are you a member too, or just?
No, I'm helping the gallery run, and also someone needs to be there to represent them. So I'm kind of every exhibition, I'm studying their art and then ready to be answering some questions if there is a visitors. By the way, we are still open, but
that's what I was going to ask. How you guys are?
Yeah, we are still following the retail kind of like law regulation. So like, I think for a while we only took like up to 7 people in the gallery, and I think it's a little more now, a little less now. Like 12 maximum, I think, is the legal limit for that space particularly. So we've been doing that, and it's been fine.
At one time, right? You can have 12 people at one time in the space.
Yes.
And it's a huge space, so that's not a lot of people for that big of a space.
I know, but you know what? I would rather have, pandemic-free space than like risking everyone, like including artists and my coworkers' life to this interesting and fascinating resurgence of global pandemic, 100 years later, since the Spanish flu. So, hey, Roaring 20s is here. Yep.
So with your art, do you feel like working with textiles is more of your favorite medium to work with, or do you have another one that you work a lot with?
I'm typical LA artist, so I have like the best interest in a lot of different things, but shallow knowledge. So
I'm surprised you admit that. I'm surprised that you admit that. I'm like you, where I like dabble in all kinds of things, but I'm an expert in everything.
I mean, honestly, like I need help. Like I just entered online video was that festival hosted by my one Voice Love and Jason. So those are my artist colleagues. And when I first submit the video, I'm like, oh, this is such a cool imagery. Like, I'm gonna talk about some story and then just like, you know, put them together and give it to them. They had to like tell me like, tell me if you need more help. In a very sincere, good way. And they actually helped me out. So I know of little, like certain things here and there. Like to me, what I'm really like being an expertise is printmaking, like the block print. So something, well, you guys can't see it, but to, you know, both of you guys, Catherine and Sam, in the monitor, there's this little thing. It's a baby infant skull with little horn growing out of it. That's my print. So I like got little, you know, linoleum block, carve it first, print one, and then carve another layer, print with different colors. So that's my expertise. But other than that I do, even the fabric, like cloth making, maybe I'm good with teddy bear making because I've been doing it since I was 15. So
I would say you had to be good at teddy bear making if you've been doing it that long.
So like roughly 20 years under my belt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna just lie to people. 20 years under my belt, so I'm good.
Why teddy bears? What's the what like is the appeal for you?
First of all, I never had one as a kid. For some reason, to my parents, it was too feminine. And I grew up in Korea. I was born in US, but then my entire family moved back to Korea when I was 2. So, well, since June, my oldest sister, were the firstborn of entire like family unit. She got a lot of gifts, and also my parents kind of married early. So when they moved to US for my dad's schooling, she was already born, and within his friend group, like my dad was the only one with a kid. So whenever someone visits, like some friends of his visited, June would have all this gift, including stuffed animals. So we brought all that back, all of them. I'm not even joking, all of them back to Korea. And then, you know, like none of them were touchable. And I got little puppy dog, and my other sister Sally got teddy bear. And I wanted teddy bear, and they're like, you have a dog, you don't get to have teddy bears. So whatever, it just, you know, kind of was back of my mind for a while. And then when I turned 15, I think, as a part of regular kind of like education, I guess, system, you have to learn home ec class in, I guess, public school system in Korea. So part of that was also sewing. My 3 good friends, who were all girls, actually noticed me making things, and they quietly told me, hey, we noticed you're actually sewing better than us, and there's a hobbyist place that's near our school that teaches you how to make teddy bears. Here's the deal. We'll pay for your class, but can you just give us the teddy bears that you would make? It was a deal of the century. What am I gonna say about it? It you know, I never thought I would make teddy bears after that. I liked it. It was such a like quiet, serene moments. You just sit by yourself, you and the fabric, and that was at the moment that was by the hand. So little pricks here, but it's just a smaller scale of safer like representation of life that I was going through. Like you have plan, or parenting actually, like you have plans for this little thing, little pattern, and you start making it, you struggle, you get hurt, but you still finish it. And at the moment when it's done, you have no sayings of what it's gonna turn to be, because you have expectations. It will still become whatever it was from the get-go. So it's just a weird realization and correlation that I'm finding out still nowadays about making teddy bears. So I can say like, yes, like I'm such an expert in making teddy bears, but it's really just mind-boggling. It's amazing.
Hmm. So you started, when did you start making clothes for American Girl dolls?
Oh, that was actually last year. So it started
Okay.
last year while I was doing artist in residency for city of Santa Monica. So right at the beach, there's a building called Camera Obscura, and it's legit just a big, humongous Camera Obscura on the second floor. So if you go up there, there's little like, for some of us who doesn't really know what the Camera Obscura is, it's just a pinhole camera. So precursor of like the whole camera. So you have little hole in the dark box, and it's usually just like thing that people carry around and make, you know, kind of like prints out of it, whatever, like literally as a camera. But this one entire building, at least like the top part, was working as Camera Obscura, and the downstairs there are two studios that's given to artists to actually work on their projects. So I was supposed to start at I think March or like end of the March, but that was a time like pandemic just happened. So it was delayed till like May or so, and then we finally get okay, like one person at a time in the building. And my original plan was to work with my colleague Kayla and give her like 9 set of different hanbok, and then like have little kind of like weird fashion show, fashion video thing as like end result, but couldn't do it. I didn't want to meet up anyone and risking like anyone with corona, because I'm at the beach. I still see people like not wearing masks and just casually walking around like like ozone in the salty air will cure me. And like, honey, no, like let's not do that. But like because of that, I was just kind of sitting in the studio, still trying to think of, what I can do, what am I gonna make, and it started down on me. It's just, you know what? I'm just gonna make series of funeral attire, and what not to be even more joyous to use American Girl doll. It's so it's just a smaller scale like representation of this little moment of panic, and somehow presented as something beautiful, something wearable, but at the same time honoring the tradition. Because and also I wanted to talk about how hanbok is not a dead costume from as a period piece, but it is evolving, and it's just kind of interesting. And I noticed in more and more K-pop people start wearing hanbok, which I feel glad. I'm like, oh my god, now like the people will not stop calling it like Korean kimono, and they'll finally start calling it hanbok. But at the same time, like I'm like, I was there when that started, little pat on my shoulder.
Trendsetter.
Trendsetter. Did you go into doing American Girl doll clothing to try to kind of do what you were talking about with the way you do the Humboldt, where it's you take something that's American and then try to bring over like traditional values of Korea?
I think so.
Or am I putting words into your mouth with the
No,
American
not at
Girl?
all. I mean, the name of the doll suggests it all. It's American Girl.
Mhm.
And honestly, majority of my customer base are American girls. They might be like second gen, or they moved here when they were like 5, 6, 9, or they are mixed, like of the mixed heritage, like the mother was Korean but never really brought up, or dad was Korean but never really like introduced to traditional culture. So I'm giving them clothes, and it is what it is. And also, sorry to say that, but a lot of doll clothes that is hanbok like available in any of the websites are not cute. I'm sorry. Like I've seen some. I did my research. I'm like, you know what? If my I don't know, like if I ever have kids and my kid wants to play with some like doll with Hanbok, I'm not gonna give them some ugly Hanbok for the doll. Like it's not aesthetic. Like ask your dad. Like I can make it for you. So you know.
Would you say that the mixing of cultures
Mhm.
is something that you use throughout your other works? Because I'm
Oh yeah,
thinking of
definitely.
the series of, I think, photographs, and maybe you did a video of it, but you're wearing the mask with the horns.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Mm-hmm.
that something similar where you're blending cultures and your history?
Definitely. Like, yes, deer, the roe deer is very sacred animal in Korea. So the whole performance that I'm preparing is actually based on the story of, I'm not even sure if it's my grandpa's story or I read it somewhere and then like I remember it as my grandpa's story. But the story goes, my grandpa's platoon during the Korean War, it's a bunch of young, hungry men, and they just hunt down some roe deer and ate it. But my grandpa was like, you know what? That's actually known to be sacred animal. I'm not gonna touch it. Everyone else in platoon was wiped, and my grandpa was sole survivor. So that story stuck with me. And then, you know, to me, the mask dance called taichum is also very like the blue collar form of art, like traditional art in Korea. But then the way that I'm presenting it is almost like, you know, like even the deer skull in that costume or mask is actually elk. It's not even roe deer. So, and it just my entire life, like even growing up in Korea, like America was in the back of my head because that was a country that I was born. And my grandpa wanted to be in this country very much, but he even got accepted to Harvard. But at the moment, my dad was born, and well, yeah, my grandma actually had good job, and they met in like U.S. Army base, and my grandma was a typist, and my grandpa was he was a translator,
Mhm.
but um he couldn't just leave my grandma and my dad and come to US to finish his education. So that's why he decided to like send my dad off, even though my dad was already married and have had kid, like to US to continue with the legacy that he wanted to have. So those little things, something Korean, but always have like US in the back of my mind, and the mixing of both. I mean, I also had, I don't know what happened to that box, but I had like the curio box that was from my grandpa, and it had the tuna, like canned tuna that he caught in Pacific Ocean, and the little vial with the like rattle from the rattlesnake, like cowboy hat.
So like
So,
things he associated with America?
mhm,
Okay.
mhm, that he actually got, you know, while he was traveling in US. So it's, you know, it just kind of is, has always been part of my life, like mixing up both and, you know, kind of making it very specific to me, but to realize it more like, I guess, more specific it is, more universal it gets. So that was one of my professor, Pierre Picot, actually told me. And it is that. I think I'm making very like specific niche point, but more and more people actually step up to me and say like, you know what? It's like it's just like what my grandma told me. Like when I was younger, like she would like tell me about like her little, you know, stories, and then it became part of my life. Even though I've been living in US my entire life, it is still in the back of my head. So I guess reverse for me, and now I'm back to the place that I was born.
Did you grow up Catholic?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The reason I ask is because in a lot of your prints, you have the traditional like halo
Mm-hmm.
that you see in like Catholic
Mm-hmm.
churches that are
Yeah.
around. Like right now, I'm looking at the one with there's a skeleton in the back, and then there's two men that are in like business attire, white shirts, the
Yes.
ties, and then there's two teddy bears that are hung or hanging.
Yes. Yeah, it's really interesting. About 51% of South Koreans with religion are identifying themselves as Christians.
Mhm.
About 48%, possibly like the Buddhist. And within those 2% remaining, or 1% remaining, there's like the traditional, like the shamanism that people follows, and also part of that is Catholic. So I'm a triple threat in like all the countries. I'm Catholic, Asian, and I'm queer. So yay. But it's, you know, like first thing that you see when you walked in like to church is, well, someone who's on the cross. So Catholics are not shy about imagery of like death, and hence that became part of my almost like language, my symbolism. But the fun thing also is I like my later practice in block prints, I start using a lot of like the traditional Buddhist kind of temple patterns as well. So like, and also the flower, like floral motif and all that, it's also like culturally very specific. Like for example, peony flowers are meaning like the good fortune, like prosperous, like all those symbols, and I'm using it with, you know, something dead like this. And the kid's face with horn right here, that's roughly based on Kirimuha, which is like it rooted from Hindu culture. So that's like one of the avatar of Shiva, like the avatar of anger, and then that became like the protector of temples, and that went straight to Buddhism. So some of the Korean Buddhist temples will actually have like some dragon face on it with the like antlers.
Mhm.
So that's where that is, you know, from, but it still looked like Day of the Dead at the same time. So multiculturalism, not by choice, but raised to it.
Do you have any?
So you have oh, go Katie.
Go ahead, Samuel.
You have a ton of teddy bears in your prints. Is it because you were making teddy bears at the time? Or is there some more symbolism on your end with the teddy bear? Or is it
Okay. I'm just gonna share with you guys only. So don't tell everyone else. Just kidding. When you see teddy bear in my print, that is my ego. That is my true self. When you see naked body in my prints, those are my ids. So my very like animal-like state. If you see skeleton in my prints, that is super ego. So one very particular work that I did was what was the title of it? So there's a one print with naked body ripping an arm with the mouth of the teddy bear with like skeleton in the back. So that is literally constant like existence of me in a in a nutshell. So super ego like overlooking like you should not do that shit, and then, you know, like it is attacking ego like I'm gonna do what I want. So, you know, that's what it is. I mean, it means a little different when it's three-dimensional, but at least like three-dimensional teddy bears are usually attached to certain memories or certain people. So it is like, or like very specific memory or the moment of experience. So it is kind of like, now you have body, there you go. That's, you know, like my memory, my understanding of some human being, now you have body, live in it. That's how I deal with three-dimensional like actual plush teddy bears. So
you end up murdering a lot of the teddy bears in your prints.
I know.
Do you think it comes from a symbolism of like the youthful like kind of like naive child dying to the other two parts that you were saying, like the naked body and like the ego, that your
On,
childhood just being sacrificed so these two can have more predominant power?
I mean, honestly, at the moment I was going through really hard time with accepting my queerness. Like I was in denial. Like I did not like who I am, so I decided to be somewhat docile, not able to talk back, still lovable in shape, teddy bear. So that's how I see myself as teddy bears in those days. And then that's why I became fat. And I I grew up fast in a way as a defense mechanism. So, it always felt like I missed a good chunk of the moment that I could live as a child. So it was just looking back, and also at the moment, like crazy amount of self-doubt, self-hatred even. So that was reflected in the days of like making those specific prints. And like no one is 100% sure with who they are and what they are. So you will still see me like playing with the idea of like the teddy bear as an image, like in conjunction of like, or in a state of being like in a way kind of demolished. But I'm a little better now. I'm like, look at me, watch me talk about, oh, me being queer or like me being gay. Like I'm fine now. So thank goodness there was some kind of art that I can talk about the struggles without being too obvious. So that's also a Korean part of me. Like you don't talk about your problems to the face. You kind of dance around the bush and then hope someone will, understand or realize what's going on.
Was it your art? Was it being in LA? Was it your family that kind of helped you uh, be more comfortable with being queer?
You know what? It's my chosen family, the one that I live with right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it, like the sense of normalcy, and it's just fascinating, and so there's something so beautiful about being who you are and then be completely comfortable with it. And like they met when one was 18, the other one was 20. They've been together ever since. Now they're in their 40s. So 20 something years like under their belt as a couple. And now they're raising children together. Like who would have thought, like me growing up in Korea and like realizing, oh shit, I'm a gay. I would never see that day coming. Like, yeah, it still is a struggle in Korea, but even in anywhere else, like when I moved to US, people still drop things like words like, again, if you want to beep it out, beep it out. Like say faggot, gay, like, and it just there's something truly beautiful about, this nurturing couple who took me as their project slash their like illegitimate son. And now I'm being grandma slash their kids like godfather, but it's so, watch them grow with them. And I finally feel like, you know what? Yeah, that's who I am. So also give myself some consideration, like, am I like more gay or am I more like genderqueer? Because I do like something like cutesy and, like rather flamboyant. But I guess like, you know what? I think I'm gay. So it even gave me more option to think about who I am rather than just like, choosing just one to become who I am. So not only I'm comfortable with being gay, like I actually thought about like who am I in deeper thoughts as well, because they were so nurturing and understanding and kind of, like help me be super, super comfortable about who I am. So yay.
No, that's really important.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that journey through your artwork. and see and have that kind of outlet to explore and struggle. Like that's what I love art, to be able to do that, to like have you be able to express and allow your feelings into this thing.
Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely.
What is your pieces? Because you have a whole set of your prints that I am not even going to attempt the word because I don't even know if I could say it correctly, but it's all the flies on different print, like.
Oh, yes.
Because you have a whole set and you call it something. It's like, I am going to attempt it.
It's like C, not C. I think it's V. So it's, it started from the fascination of, again, death. Those are blue bottle flies. They are typically the first one to show up when there's a carcass. So the fastest showed up in as scientific journal recorded was 7 seconds. Something died 7 seconds later. Hello, laid egg. So it's a beautiful part of nature that actually regenerates from something that is dead, gone, demolished, and then something new comes out of it, and that's part of life. And wallpaper in that series as a symbolism of body or the thing that is being done or being kind of like pushed away, and new life form will be starting on top of it, that is symbolized with flies, this specific blue bottle flies. So yeah, I adore that.
What they're sitting on, it kind of looks like it's one of the patterns, or like a flower. What kind of, where'd you get the idea for the pattern that they're all sitting on?
So that's the wallpaper, and let me see. And that's roughly based with like a skull and flower, so something like this. And then I simplified like the face of it and then turned it into like little pattern, just 2-3 color pattern, and then turned it into a wallpaper. So design itself is inspired by like Victorian wallpapers. So something old, something Western, but somehow those were all the rage while I was growing up in Korea. Like weirdly specific, like stylized floral pattern wallpaper with like reduced color. I still remember the wallpaper that I had at my apartment, like when I was like between 6 to 12, was this cream color, like little off-white wallpaper, but embossed with those like floral weird pattern. I'm like, interesting choice. Like I can't tell if it's a thing until I actually touch it, but that's what it almost exactly looked like as those series, like in the background. But I just took skull and flowers and then kind of arrange it with the seed pods and like open blossoms and turn it into little like wallpaper. Yeah,
I can actually see when you mentioned the skull and you literally showed the skull and the flower, you can see it. Like once you point it out, you can really see that there is a skull.
Yes, I love like putting some weird details in the back and kind of quietly wait until someone notices it. That's a joy of what I'm doing. I know it sounds so weird, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be all cryptic about this. Like I'm gonna put some dead in the middle of like pretty flower. I did like whole paintings of like a field of poppies, and also there's like upside down 3 black like silhouette of teddy bears. But within that painting, like you see little pockets of browns and grays, and you're kind of like, oh, that's crazy, background thing. But if you closely look into it, it's actually teeth, like the nose bone, or my favorite part of the skull called sphenoid, because it looks like butterflies. I'm like, oh, there's butterfly inside of all of our faces,
Where is that in the skull?
It's actually your skull is not just one thing, yeah? So like it's made out of, I forgot how many bones, but it's part of the nose bone. So like when you take this part off and then like behind it, I think, including your nose palate, is this butterfly looking bone called sphenoid. I know. I mean, I'm interested in like those two. You can clearly see that's my shelf. So there's like the body, like science, and then there's like, oh, look at it, dead bug. So
No, it's interesting how in different areas you're pulling into your artwork to make up one thing.
yeah, and my life was all that. My parents really thought I was going to become botanist. Like that was my first dream. I mean, I'm still raising puppies and like crossbreed them to have specific look and property of it. But yeah, I mean, one of the great stories my dad told me about America was Cornell University. Late 1800s, early 1900s, they visited all over the world, collect a lot of like the seeds, like the crop seeds. So around that time, Korea had like 300 different types of bean that was growing. And one by one, it's just too hard to grow all of them, so they just disappeared. But voila, Cornell University, their like horticulture department has the whole entirety of those things supposedly, and they are keeping it alive by like plant them every few years and then like harvest the seeds. So integrity of like the whole like, I guess, agriculture industry from 100 years ago is still alive in the form of research in Cornell. So my goal as a child was like, I'm going back to US. It will be easier for me since I have citizenship, and I'm going to get into Cornell, like, and then their agriculture department, and then, grab those seeds back to Korea and then reintroduce them. Like, so science was always like part of my interest. And another funny story, because I really liked clearly like bones and muscle structures and all that. While I was going to Los Angeles City College, I took anatomy class, and my mom was excited. She's like, "Oh my God, finally my son is going to be a doctor." I'm like, "Ha, I just like dead things. I'm sorry."
Your poor mom.
I know. And like next semester I took like, what was it, philosophy class, because it was like one of the class that I have to take to graduate. And she's like, oh my God, he's gonna major in philosophy and then go to the law school. I'm like, oh no. Mommy, no, it's not going to happen. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry, Samuel, did you have another?
No, I didn't. I was gonna ask a question about the Instagram.
Oh.
Well, we should share your Instagram too for people so they can find you. Your Instagram, your website, wherever people can find your work and see what you're doing.
Of course. My Instagram, there's two. So one is CHOHNG. So Hohng. That's for my personal artist one, and there's one for teddy bear and clothing. That's Knoxon Dahl. So KNOXON.DAHL. I know it's a little complicated, and Knoxon Dahl phonetically means rusted moon in Korean, and that was my pen name when I wanted to become a writer. By the way, I'm published in Korea.
Oh, very cool.
Really? No, but it's like small publication. But hey, that was a name that I used. So it became part of the, now like Knoxon Dahl, when you see it in paper, it looks like really painfully hip name. But phonetically in Korean, it's just rusted moon. Okay. But those two are my Instagram, and follow me, I'll follow you back. Ha ha.
What did you get published for?
Short novels, like sappy short novel. Like there was a I guess group called 1 Page Novels, And there's one issue that I got into, and it was about like arapaima, that Amazonian fish, who, by the way, which is the only species of fish that's known to kill themselves if they're chased. They're huge fish too. It's like 4, 6, like 7 feet long fish. But then when they are chased by something, they would rather like bump their head on the bottom of the like river bed and then kill themselves. So it's about those fish, like pairs of fish. One died off and the other one killed itself. That was the end of the story. Like,
Oh,
kind
jeez.
of weird love story, but then it was one page and people are like, what the fuck is going on? Let's give him a chance. So that one was published, and the next one that I got was like one of the themed story about like psychic, kind of supernatural human, like superhuman abilities. And that was story about two friends in quotes, and one's ability was to literally open up the chest cavity, and there's like you can see the bones. That was his superpower. But his friend's superpower, he could read this person who can open up the body, like his thoughts on top of the rib cage bones. So it was like weird, like they just work for themselves as a superhuman, like super, not heroes, just as superhumans. So those two are the stories that was kind of published, and I was like, yay, weird brain function still works as a story, yay. But anyways,
cool.
I know I talk a lot, but thank you so much for your patience.
No, that's great. You're perfect for a podcast because it's all about talking.
It
So
is all about talking. So you have, if they want to follow your art, because do they go to the website? Is that the easiest way to follow all your art that you do? Or is there another way to follow you or
I
get more?
think so. I mean, I recently updated it and I just started taking like the fashion photography. That ones are not up in the website yet, but they're partially in Instagram. But Instagram should have the link to everything else too. But my website is www.chuckhong.com. So you
great.
can find me there.
Last plug I'm going to force you to make is your Etsy, because obviously you're trying to make money.
Yes. Oh, fingers crossed. Lord knows I need those. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. So it's still like Etsy.com/shop/Knoxon Dahl. So it's like I'm trying to have the Knoxon Dahl as a kind of umbrella term for something like the shop, something purchasable. So that should include like a Hanbok. By the way, it's bespoke, so it will fit you perfectly. You just have to do little legwork, like measuring your own body, but it will fit. I guarantee you. So it's made to order, so you can order it there. And also in my Etsy site, you can also support me by buying my poppy seeds. I know it's really random, but I'm finally back to gardening and crossbreeding all this like weird poppies, and yeah, be my guest. And also teddy bears will be there too. So hey.
Well,
How
awesome.
come you don't sell the big teddy bears that look like a backpack?
Oh, that's actually collaborations with my friend Linda, who actually kind of inspired me to make Hanbok. Her site is, I think, B2B fashion. I may have to give you guys information into it, but yeah. Whenever she sells it, I'm getting a chunk of it. So if you guys want some fancy, fashionable teddy bear backpack that is somewhat functional, hey, at least you can put your wallet in it. So yeah, hit us
I
up.
like the somewhat functional aspect of it.
No, like all the other things that I make are art for being sake of art. Like Hanbok, yes, like you can wear it, but teddy bears, like it's cute. You can hold on to it, but I give you like the certificate of authenticity, and I heard people get kind of like, now it's too legitimate. it has like the certificate. Should I play with it? I'm like, dude, it's yours. Do whatever you want with it. But they still get intimidated by that. The fact that I'm trying to make it, like legitimate art object. So, at least backpack. You can wear it. And there are a series of photos in my personal Instagram that I'm like wearing really weird, like Catholic schoolboy / Hanbok like photo with the teddy bears on it, that backpack on it. So you can kind of wear it around and have fun. And yeah, I'm super glad Linda can think in a more practical way than I can. So.
Well, great. Thank you so much for being on our podcast. You're the first one for 2021, so it's exciting.
Yes.
So everyone, make sure that you are checking out our Instagram, Miss Art World Podcast, and we'll have all of Chuck's information, his Etsy accounts. We'll post some of his artwork so you can see it. We're also up on YouTube, so you can go to Miss Art World YouTube channel and watch us all talk to each other, which is always interesting over Zoom. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. I'm so excited and always good to connect back to you. So